So today I come to you with good news. This is some positive news with quite a few things, and these things are not getting talked about in mainstream media. They're not getting covered on YouTube, and these things are actually really positive for the stock market in the next few months, and it's just not getting picked up at all. And when you look at the S&P 500, the S&P 500 has had, a couple of days where it's been having a little bit of a downtrend. It's down 3% in these last 5 days, and none of it is getting priced into the stock market. And the longer I keep staring at these things right now, they just keep getting better and better and better. And in my head, I'm looking at these things going, this is really positive. This is really positive for the stock market in the next few months, and it's not getting priced in, and no one's talking about it. So I'm going to share these key things with you today about what's really positive going on in the background right now in the stock market. Okay, keep it a little bit of a secret. We don't want everyone finding out, but when it starts showing in a few months' time, you'll be able to go, JKR Investing told me this was happening. Okay, so first of all, massive impact. What was a massive impact in earnings in the last quarter and the quarter before, but particularly in the last quarter? Well, I'll show you. We'll just pop on to Google's investor relations. Google is a stock that I own. It's a stock that I'm trying to build up into a top 3 position. I'm trying to actually build it up into my top position, but I don't know if I will be able to. I think for me to do that, I'll have to have the stock at these sort of levels for the next kind of another 12 months, which could happen. And if it does happen, buzzing. If it doesn't happen, fair enough. But I'm trying to build up a big position in Google. And when you look at Google's or Alphabet's last earnings, and you'll see this in so many stocks in the last quarter, constant currency, or how much the dollar has been impacting businesses. And if you look at Google's recent earnings, you'll be able to see here, revenue was up 6% versus last year, which isn't too bad. But actually on a constant currency basis, because of the dollar getting so strong and Google reporting in dollar, was actually up 11%. So when you look at this, this is two massive different numbers here, 6% and 11%. If Google reported 11% last quarter, you'd be like, that's, absolutely amazing growth, especially when you consider the valuation and what's going on in the world right now. But it was 6%. And you look at a lot of these impacts at the moment of businesses, there's a lot of businesses saying that this is affecting them, and it's affecting the profit. And that is how strong that dollar is, and how many businesses have to convert to the dollar, and it being really strong, and it really impacted them into Q3. What's been happening with the dollar in the last few weeks? It's not being said about that much, but the dollar has been coming down and down. Look at this here, the decline that it's been going on, and now it is the same levels it was at around about May time 2022. So this has had a massive turnaround from where it's been. You've seen so many businesses saying, oh, this is a massive headwind for us, our business. It's affecting us. We think it's going to continue. And very, very quickly, that's turned into a massive tailwind for businesses. And it's something to keep an eye on and see if it gets any better. But that's something to really point out. And the big thing as well is with a lot of businesses, when you think about the end of Q3, which a lot of companies, have recently reported, which, for example, you can take Google, for example, which obviously runs you from July, August, September. If we look at the back end of September, where was this at? Well, if we look at the back end of September, it was pretty much near highs of how strong that dollar was. So when a lot of businesses like Google were reporting their earnings, in their Q3 earnings and then was guiding for Q4, most of these businesses took in the impact of, okay, that impact of the dollar is going to continue into Q4 and it's going to have major impacts of our business. And it hasn't happened. Within a couple of weeks, that's massively reversed and now goes from a headwind to a tailwind. And that's going to be very important when you look at businesses that start reporting earnings. We were starting to look at, Q4 thinking, oh, the same thing's going to continue. We're going to see a lot of companies start mentioning how much that's impacting the revenue, how much that's impacting the profit. And there probably will still be some of that, but not as much. And what a lot of businesses will have done is guided once again to have a massive impact, and it probably won't have that much of an impact for them businesses. And that's something to really keep an eye on in the coming up earnings and going forward. So something, first of all, that's the one thing that's not being talked about that's really affecting businesses at the moment. Next one, oil. Oil has been coming down massive. what has the massive surge, if we zoom out here, in the last year, or let's go in the last 3 years. Since 2020, we had the CV situation. Oil came down a little bit, and then it got back to where it was pre-pandemic, around that $52, and then it absolutely surged up to nearly 120 at one point, $120, and we know what that caused. That caused massive pressure on inflation, and inflation skyrocketed. The main driver of inflation is oil. Oil goes up, inflation always goes up. Everything goes up to cover for the prices of oil. We saw oil skyrocketed, and what have we seen in the last few months? We've seen things trying to catch up on prices because of the cost of oil. It's been the main driver of inflation, and inflation's caused a massive problem for the stock market. Now inflation's coming down and oil continues to come down. It's no coincidence at all. And oil is going lower and lower and lower. And if you actually look at oil right now, oil is actually negative on the year. Oil's now gone negative on the year. If you look back at the around about December time last year, it was $72. It's $72 now, and we've seen a massive reduction from $122 down to $72. So that is a massive benefit for stocks. That's obviously impacted costs as well, and also the big thing that's driving inflation up is coming down, and obviously that will also go to the Fed. The Fed sees inflation coming down, interest rates start improving. So we've seen here two major impacts of businesses in the stock market at the moment have massively improved in the last few weeks and continue to improve as well. Now the third of four things as well, you've probably seen this one today. China are starting to ease the restrictions even more. Still probably not to the level that we would want, I would guess, but they're actually giving more leeway than what we thought. I thought we would never see China give some sort of leeway or start to give some back a little bit. I thought this is going to be a complete wipe off to 2024, but this kind of shows some unpredictability in the Chinese government, because we didn't think they were going to do this, and this is obviously a really positive thing because we need the Chinese the economy to be open, operating. Obviously helps the world economy, logistics, inflation, all of them sort of things. So this was a really positive thing. Not the major story out of all these articles, but obviously it's still a positive. And the fourth thing, once again, this is a prime example of a headwind going very quickly to a tailwind. And this is what's starting to happen. What we're starting to see is gross margins declining in a lot of businesses, especially businesses that sell physical products, and we're having to do a lot of shipping around. Shipping costs, freight costs, container costs, oil, all skyrocketed. And what has started to happen? All of them are starting to pull back. You can see here on the global container freight rate index, you can see here how much these prices skyrocketed. You look from June time, it was $1,800. By the time we got to September 21, we saw that go up to 10,000, and this is in that period where we heard so many businesses talking about containers are now costing us 2 times more, 3 times more than a year ago, and it was really impacting the gross margins. And this was the first kind of time we started to hear about those impacts starting to come in to gross margins on a lot of businesses that ship physical products. We're seeing gross margins decline. Now with the combination of oil coming back, with the containers coming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, they're now actually to a point where they're actually very close to where they were at the pre-pandemic levels. And that's obviously, once again, a headwind that goes to a tailwind. Now, a lot of these companies that ship physical products and all that will still be running through the higher priced costs at the moment, but when contracts come back up, when it goes to shipping going forward, we're going to see this really start improving from business's point of view, and we're going to start seeing this mention in gross margins. We're going to see the mention, gross margins have improved. We are saving so much on shipping, containers, oil. We're going to see them start saying that gross margins have now improved. And if gross margins improve, what's going to happen? Profit's going to start improving on a lot of businesses. Profit starts improving in a lot of businesses. Profit growth, companies go to cheaper valuations and are even more attractive. So this is once again another combination here of massive headwinds that are starting to build for tailwinds, and all these tailwinds are building towards 2023 in a really positive direction, which obviously is what's caused major issues in 2022. And with all these things all lining together to create a very good picture moving into 2023. It's just worth pointing out. It's one of those things that don't be too surprised if we move into next year and all of a sudden you start seeing so many businesses mentioning about, improved gross margins, improved profit margins. We see inflation coming down. We see then the Fed start to reduce rates. Everything is moving, by the looks of it, into a positive direction at the moment. And a lot of it isn't getting mentioned. And especially as these are improving, there's not really any fundamental change in the S&P 500. There's not any factoring in going at the moment. So it's something really interesting to keep watching, because without doubt we could see some of these start showing in companies' earnings in the next 3, 6, 9 months. So yeah, thought I'd shout that out, guys, in a bit of a positive video today. So I hope you enjoyed the positivity, and yeah, I'll catch you in a bit.